Hello, everyone. This is my dog, Charlie. He's going to hang out with us today. Hope you don't mind. So, I've been talking about this for a while now. And those of you know me know that I have been going through therapy. No big deal. Everybody does, or a lot of people do. But my therapy has really taken a big change in the last 6 months. It really kind of shifted around. And I'm only talking about it because it's a really weird perspective, and I think sharing it is really valuable. So, a lot of us have trauma, whatever. We get really stuck. Oh, my hair is crazy. We get really stuck in what happened to us and the monsters and, all that stuff. And I'm not trying to say if that's your perspective that it's bad or anything. We all have our perspectives. But, things have really changed for me in terms of how I perceive those traumas, because I started looking at what I did in response to them, not just what was done to me. Excuse me, I just set up a bit. Charlie can be heavy. He's the largest Cocker Spaniel I've ever seen. He's 45 pounds, yeah, but he's not fat. He's just big. Anyway, back to what I was saying. Yeah, I started looking at how I responded to the trauma, not just the perspective of these mean monster people. Okay, I really started looking at who they are and what they were doing, and this required a lot of introspection, and that's a really key, I think, to these kinds of things. And again, this is just my experience. I don't want to tell anybody how they should perceive anything. But, I started looking at the lessons I learned from the experience, how I took those lessons into my life, and how I really unconsciously recreated those dynamics throughout my life, where I chased people who couldn't provide me with any kind of safety or security. So I realized that the bottom line was, for me anyway, that I was looking for security. But more importantly, what it made me do is really look at, was it all bad? It's a really interesting question. I mean, some abuse situations are continuous, constant, okay? But in my case, it was very cyclic. There'd be bad times, there'd be good times. There were bad messages. There actually were some good ones. And, it really had a lot to do with perspective. Okay, I kind of came out of that whole experience thinking everything was bad, But the point I came across that really sort of started shifting my perspective about it was that not everything was bad. And despite my parents' monstrous behavior, they actually, I think, did love me, despite the abusive behavior. I fully realized that my parents were human beings, had a lot of frailties, but they had good sides too. My parents are very intelligent, not educated, but intelligent. I know this because my parents could converse on any subject, at least to some degree. They were well informed. They kept up on current events. My mother worked for an attorney. She was exposed to a very high level of educated persons, and even though she herself was not terribly educated, she was an avid reader, and she had a high level of cognitive abilities. And my father, I think, was a handicapped genius. I mean, I really think that. He had an amazing ability to mastermind a plan. I mean, some of them were kind of harebrained, but I mean, the guy can fix anything, which probably doesn't sound like a genius activity, but when you really think about it, they're all different kinds of intelligence, and mechanical intelligence is a real thing. I don't know if it's actually called that, but physical intelligence or being able to manipulate one's environment, it does require a certain level of intelligence. But I'm getting lost here. I think what I'm trying to demonstrate is that my parents were very complex people who had poor emotional control, but I think ultimately they did love me. I'm sure on some level. Maybe it was a ill-defined perspective for them. I don't know. But my point is, it's about perspective. Not everything was bad. I got some really good messages about self-resiliency, about being resilient, about integrity. You know, even though my parents sometimes acted without integrity, somehow I got this message that it was really important to have personal integrity. And then I'm just going to pat myself on the back here. I live my life by a sense of personal responsibility, and I will take my punishment. A lot of people avoid taking punishment, but not me. I feel the most noble thing you can do is to prostrate yourself before justice and accept your punishment, because not accepting your punishment is a shame. It's a shame on my soul to not take responsibility. And somehow I got that. I don't know how I got that, but I'm really proud of it. It's shaped a lot of my life, and it's even more important to me now that I'm older. And I think the thing that's become abundantly clear for me, and the reason I'm doing this video, I've talked about this on my Facebook page. I realize there's three fundamental aspects of human existence that lead to personal fulfillment. And that is that we are introspective. We go inside of ourselves and we start to examine our life, who we are, what our motivations are, what we've done. We take a personal moral inventory. I mean, you got to look at your mistakes, but you got to look at your successes too. It's not an excuse to beat up on yourself. And a lot of people get stuck in this process because they feel so incredibly bad about the mistakes they've made. You do make mistakes because you are human. We're all human. We are not infallible. We are not gods. We're humans. And you have to turn that into authenticity, which is the practice of being yourself, admitting who you are to yourself, even if you can't do it with others. Be real with yourself, be honest with yourself, and then make a resolution, which is an act of self-compassion. We resolve to do better. We don't resolve to be perfect. We just simply resolve to move forward, fully recognizing our humanness and knowing that we will fall back into old patterns, but we will catch ourselves more and more as time goes by, and we will become something new, because that's what we're doing. We're trying to grow. I'm trying to grow anyway. You do whatever you want. And once we master self-compassion, then we can turn our compassion towards others. We can take the lessons we learn. And it's also changed my perspective about jerks. Okay? Everybody is like, oh, that guy's a jerk, or people we call other nasty names. Once you have gone through this process, you begin to realize that the people around you or people you observe have a lot of shortcomings. And this may sound ego-driven, so don't misunderstand me. Because you were who you were, you have a perspective that they don't have. you have a unique opportunity to recognize their humanity. And you have a unique opportunity to recognize that they are where you used to be. And this is not an ego-driven perspective. This is simply a reflection of the reality of the situation. And it really changes how you feel about them. Yes, what they are doing is self-destructive. Yes, they are being jerks. Yes, they are separating themselves from others. They don't even know what they're doing, but you know what they're doing. I don't know what that perspective brings you other than a sense of compassion and understanding. So you're being compassionate towards yourself and you're being compassionate towards others. It also helps you avoid pitfalls with people because literally the greatest skill you and I, everybody can have is to walk away. You do not have to engage people and you don't have to justify walking away. You are under no obligation to others, okay? This whole Christian Judeo ethic, and I'm sorry if you're Christian and you think I'm picking on you. I'm not. I'm just trying to enlighten you about your perspectives. You are not obligated to rescue other people. Only yourself. You are obligated to rescue yourself. You have an obligation to yourself. From the day you were born, you are on a mission to become you. And it is your greatest single goal, obsession, whatever you want to call it in your life. And your job is to take care of yourself and not ask others to do it for you. And trust me, if you really, truly make an effort to get to know yourself, to understand your reasons, your motivations, your actions, the lessons you learned from these traumas, if you have them, you know, how they affected your life, and what do you want to do about them? It's your choice. Nobody's telling you to do anything about your life. Okay? It's your decision. You make the goals, you make the plan, and you carry out the action. And I think that's the biggest, well, not the biggest, that's a real realization there. You have to go into action in your life. You cannot be a passive observer. Well, you can, but what happens if you're a passive observer? Then you have no effect on your own life. You know, you just allow it to roll over you and accept the circumstances as they are. But I'm not like that. I will not be like that. I've gone into this journey with the idea that I wanted to become something better. I wasn't prepared for what that meant. I didn't even understand it. I've said that before. I still don't really know what the future holds. But here I am, 2.5 years down the road from a really traumatic event that literally broke my personality. I behaved in ways that were very uncharacteristic for me. I lost my sense of control. I lost my compassion. Well, I don't know if I did, actually. I didn't know how to respond. I responded in a very animalistic way through my pain and my hurt. And I did even more damage to the person around me that was affecting me. And I did damage to myself. And I came out of it really broken and hurting, but desirous to heal. And then I started healing, but then I realized way down the road that I only went so far because I probably became emotionally exhausted and I didn't realize it. I just thought those feelings were resolving because they seemed to go away, but they really hadn't. They were just kind of buried underneath the surface, which really highlights the whole idea that healing is not a steady linear line. You don't start at point A and finish at point B. It's like 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. It's like a tango. The tango of healing. Anyway, sorry. I do try to use humor to process a little bit. Um, yeah, it's not a steady thing, and we can think things are really resolved even years down the road, and then all of a sudden a thought pops into your head, and you suddenly find yourself back years back. You're like, wow, I thought I'd really dealt with this, but the change in my therapy, which is what all this started about, was I began to have these therapy sessions that were very different from anything I ever had before. I wasn't just sitting there talking about the past anymore. Sorry, my dogs. They get very excited if they hear anything. Um, I began to have these like really introspective conversations with my therapist that were really deeply nuanced. The I blew myself away. I have to be honest with you. I really didn't realize what an intricate understanding I had of my own dynamics and the dynamics of the people around me who were affecting me. And it's so weird. It all just, you think the other person has to say certain things to you so that you can respond back to them. And that can happen. It's good. I guess that'd be closure maybe or something like that. But we rarely ever get closure. You have to give yourself closure. And closure isn't a single event. It's an evolving perspective over a long period of time. Because what you think you need to hear isn't always what you need to hear. Or maybe it's what you needed to hear at the time. But our perspectives change based on our understanding. And again, I cannot stress enough, it's an introspective journey that starts inside of yourself. It's a conversation you have about your own perspectives. Where did they come from? Why do you think certain things? What are you basing your opinions on? What do you really know about another person? Especially in my case, because I had a person who doesn't share, is very closed off, uses shuts conversation down, doesn't speak, oftentimes walks away, not in a rude way, just kind of wanders off. Like, it sends a clear message they don't want to talk. Anyway, but when you have a person like that to deal with, then you don't have any information. So all you have is your observations. And that's where the introspection comes in, understanding another person. And then you can start to look at how you respond to them. Everything. Christine from Sassy Scorpion, she's a tarot card reader, very high level, also a therapist. She was a therapist for years and years and years. It really shows in the way she interprets the cards. And her biggest comment and thing I take away from her, because you get information wherever you get it, is that everything starts with the self. You think it's about another person, but oftentimes it's not, which, brings up this whole nuance thing again. The nuance is perspective. It's in the perspective. So I kind of rambled a bit, but I just wanted to say 3 pillars: introspection, authenticity, compassion. If you can just start the journey, it's self-reinforcing. The more you think about yourself and how you respond, what your goals are, the lessons you take away from each experience you have, the more nuanced your perspective, the more capable you are of making intelligent and rational decisions. Because this is very important from my perspective. We are an emotional being, but we have a rational mind. And how those two things interact with each other is a real key to our intelligence, okay? Our emotional intelligence versus our rational intelligence. Many people are not very emotionally intelligent. It's just culturally speaking, as an American, it's a real problem in the United States, a lack of emotional awareness. Um, sorry, whiskers. Um, and I'm not putting down on anybody. Okay, we all got to learn. Some of us are in a certain place, some of us aren't. You know, I'm not judging anybody. I'm just talking about myself. And that's the biggest takeaway I've gotten in the last 6 months is through confirmation from my therapist that my emotional intelligence has expanded hugely. And I'm really proud of that. It makes me cry because I've struggled my whole life to become emotionally aware. But I didn't know I was doing it. I mean, I didn't really understand what emotional intelligence was. But it didn't come until I got down in the weeds. I call that dark place in your heart, you know, that place that you're afraid to go. I call that the deeps. It's the deep place. It's the dark place. It's the place where we fear to go because there's monsters there. It's where all our pain and our anguish is. But it's also a really miraculous place because it's where your core self is, the person you were born, okay? It's where your intelligence is. It's where your joy is. It's where everything is. It is the seed of who you are. And you cannot heal and you cannot become the person you were meant to be until you're willing to get out your sword, like St. George, and go down and slay the dragon, okay? And I can assure you, you have every skill necessary to slay that dragon. And behind that dragon is a bunch of treasure, okay? It's the place of celebration. It's dark at times, but it's very bright. So, you know, it's just my language. It's the way I describe myself. You don't have to describe yourself that way. But I guess what I'm saying is you have, well, I don't want to tell anybody what to do. I had to find courage to face my dragons. And it turns out that I actually was I was making mistakes, okay, definitely. But man, I was trying. I was trying hard. I've applied myself to this journey more than anybody else that I know of to dig my way out and to find some, I don't even want to say happiness. It is not about happiness. I mean, I use that term a lot, but it's about finding peace with yourself, resolving to let go. And that is the bottom line. That's the thing I've learned. You cannot move forward if you don't let go because you're holding on to something. Your hands are stuck on the bars. Where can your body go if your hands are stuck on the bars? You're just stuck. So you gotta let go. If you don't let go of the pain, if you don't let go of the attempts to manipulate people to do what you want them to do, who cares what people do? Okay? They don't want to be with you. They don't want to be with you. Okay? You don't want to be with them. Okay? Maybe you do. I don't know. Those are your goals. Whatever. But you got to be real about what you're doing. A lot of us pretend we're doing the right thing, but what we're really doing is manipulating people to get them to stay with us because we're afraid to be alone. But you know what? If you really explore yourself, if you really love yourself, you'll find out, like most of us, you're a good person. Most of us are good people. I think most of us, yeah. I can say that pretty confidently. I think most people are really good at heart. And I think they want to do the right thing. And I know you want to do the right thing. I wanted to do the right thing always because I have a personal sense of integrity. and it controls my whole life. Anyway, I've rambled way more than I meant to. I just really wanted to say that you can be successful, but you gotta let go of the bullshit. You just do, and you gotta be real with yourself. And you gotta love yourself. The single biggest challenge in the world today is a lack of self love. It sounds almost ridiculous. Why wouldn't you love yourself? Because people get messages all the time that they're not good enough. You're not good enough. You make bad decisions. Look at your choices. Look at how a mess your life is. Well, it is that way because you don't know how to make it better. But you can make it better. But the only way to make it better is to turn inward and go down in your deeps and fight those battles. Understand yourself. Give yourself a break. That's your compassion. And take it out into the world. Don't you want to help the world by helping yourself? I do. I'm going to make a confession here. It's just a personal statement, and don't judge me for it. But I'm a holy man, okay? And no, I'm not religious. I am a perspective prophet. I take what I see and I change it by filtering it through my perspective, and then I regurgitate it back out to the world. I don't know why this is important, but I believe it's my personal journey, and I believe it's what I've been meant to do my whole life. And I've actually been doing it very unconsciously. And I guess the value in it is that it humanizes events and it gives people a chance to hear a different perspective about something. It's a holy job for me. And that's why I say I'm a holy man. I'm a holy man who's been leveled to his knees and been asked to be really realistic about who he is and admit his faults. And that's okay. However you define yourself is your deal. You call yourself whatever you want. You want to call yourself Christ revisiting the earth. That's fine with me. I don't care. It isn't about what other people think. But my job, as far as I'm concerned, is to heal myself and do this introspective journey that's led me to the ability to understand why I'm here, to be a prophet. And I don't care if anybody thinks I'm crazy or not, I am a prophet. I've always been a prophet. I was a prophet even as a child. I have a lot of unique abilities and skills that really lend themselves well. I have a high level of abstract thinking, and I'm able to take very seemingly unrelated details and pull them into a cohesive narrative. It's a pretty unique skill, even on the intelligence scale. And again, I'm not trying to tell people, that I'm amazing. I'm just recognizing my gifts because I've been introspective and I've taken personal, fearless, moral inventory of who I am. And that is everything, good and bad, and I'm proud of myself. So that's been my journey lately. I hope there's some value in the conversation or the talk. Sorry I went on for 29 minutes. I just am so verbose sometimes. But, there's a lot to say. And I bring this information to you as a offering. Take from it what you want. Reject what you want. Hopefully, there's some value in it. You have a good day.